How's it going, everybody? In this video, we're going to be talking about the appointment of Xavier Becerra to the head of Health and Human Services and what impact that has for California gun cases that have going on right now. And a lot of people have questions about this, so let's talk about it. But real quick, before we jump into this video, I want to thank a couple of our sponsors, the first being Customs. Customs has California compliant parts and features that you can purchase from them. And the other is Got Your Six. Got Your Six has a firearm specific app and they have features like the Initiate Freedom button. So if your Second Amendment rights are ever violated through something like a red flag law, you can click the button and a notification goes out to members of your group. These two companies do a lot to support this channel and I cannot thank them enough. And like I mentioned, there will be links to them both down in the details section. So if you live in the state of California and you've lived under the current regime, you know that Xavier Becerra has been a huge nemesis for California gun owners. He was the Attorney General. He was in charge of California's Department of Justice and was actually the named defendant on a lot of very important cases, especially now that we have going on in some very important cases like Duncan v. Becerra that's up in the 9th Circuit, Rody v. Becerra, Rupp v. Becerra. There's a case that's still in the lower district, in the Southern District of California, Miller v. Becerra. There's other cases that are in the workups that had Xavier Becerra named as a defendant. And now we actually got news that Joe Biden has appointed him as the head of Health and Human Services. So he will be vacating his position as the Attorney General for the state of California and will be actually taking that position. So since that news came out, a lot of people have been asking me questions about, well, what does this mean for the state of California? What does this mean for current cases that we have going on right now? Does that mean those cases are pretty much gone now? What happens? So the quick answer to that question, where people are asking me, okay, what happens now that Xavier Becerra is no longer the AG for the state of California? Does that mean those cases like Duncan v. Becerra, Rody v. Becerra, Miller v. Becerra, Rupp v. Becerra, do all of those just automatically, magically go away because Becerra is no longer a defendant? He was the named defendant before. And my answer to that is no, those cases don't go away. It doesn't mean we get an automatic win. It doesn't mean that those cases just disappear or anything like that. Essentially what's going to happen is they will have a renaming of those cases and a new defendant will be named in those cases, and it will be whatever Attorney General who takes Xavier Becerra's position, that individual will be renamed into those cases. And essentially Becerra was a figurehead for those cases. You're suing the state of California, you're suing the Department of Justice, and since he is the head of that department, he is the named defendant in those cases. So that's why he was primarily named in those. But also beyond that, it's not just simply that he was a figurehead. He was a figurehead of the DOJ, and that's why he's named. But Xavier Becerra was also responsible for the implementation of a lot of these laws as well. So, but just because he is now the head of Health and Human Services, those cases don't go away. They're simply going to be renamed under the new AG. The next question that's popped up a lot and that people have asked me, well, do I think this is a good thing for the state of California? Is this going to be good for gun rights? Is this going to be good for gun laws going forward in the state of California? And my answer to that is pretty much just pointing to the realities of what we live under in the state of California. Gavin Newsom is going to get to appoint the new AG. And so what does that mean? It doesn't mean that we're going to get anybody probably more favorable to our gun rights in the state of California. The reality is Gavin Newsom, the state of California, are who they are, and whoever he appoints into that position is likely not going to be favorable to our Second Amendment rights. So I wouldn't expect anything really dramatic changing as far as Xavier Becerra leaving and us getting someone more favorable. The likelihood is that whoever takes that position is going to be just as adverse to our Second Amendment rights as Xavier Becerra was, potentially even more. Now, there are some individuals who are already kind of in the talks about being the new replacement for that position. I think there's a whole political article that names a few individuals who are in the running to take that position. But the reality is, when I was going through looking at all those named individuals, none of them are going to be very favorable to us. It's very unlikely that anything positive is going to come out of this. And actually, there's going to be something very negative that's coming out of this, and that has to do with the effect of this on the entire nation. Now you have Xavier Becerra, who's the former AG of the state of California, doesn't have a whole lot of experience in Health and Human Services, has actually been quite adverse to the prior Trump administration. There's been issues with Xavier Becerra and some abortion related issues in the past. Now you have this individual in the lead role of Health and Human Services for the entire US, in a time when we have something very major going on with the COVID-19 pandemic, and now the Biden administration is talking about some mandatory lockdowns and mandatory masks and things like that. Now you have this individual from the state of California, and Xavier Becerra, leading a charge in a time period when we actually need someone with some common sense and some experience on these issues taking lead, and we don't have that in Xavier Becerra. And so take it from me as an individual who lives in the state of California, who actually lived in California while Xavier Becerra was the AG, and take it from someone who actually interned in the AG's office while Xavier Becerra was the AG. He is a very liberal individual. He has very liberal and progressive ideologies. He's been very vocal on things like immigration, abortion, gun rights, things like that. And now you have him as a lead role, pretty much bringing those California progressive ideologies to a national level in a very key role right now. There's even individuals on the left who are being critical of Biden's appointment of Xavier Becerra to this position because Becerra lacks medical expertise. There's a lot of people who think that someone in this position should have some sort of knowledge, especially with what we're dealing with right now. So even individuals on the left are being critical of him. And so I don't like the appointment. I don't like the spread of these California individuals getting into high U.S. roles. You now have Kamala Harris as the vice president. Now you have Xavier Becerra running Health and Human Services for the U.S. Feinstein is always an issue. And so now we are having these individuals who pretty much have run the state of California down into the ground, taking lead roles for the entire US. So really all this leads to is more inept people taking lead roles in positions that they really shouldn't be taking lead roles in, and being in control of our national policies and being in charge of the national direction. So I just wanted to clear those things up because a lot of people were asking me those two main questions about, well, what happens with these cases that Xavier Becerra is named in, these very key Second Amendment cases, as well as people were asking me, well, is there potential for someone more favorable? Is this going to be a good thing for the state of California now that Xavier Becerra is leaving? The reality is no, none of those cases go away because he's leaving, and also because he's leaving, we're not going to get anybody more favorable. The likelihood is that Newsom, with this appointment power, is going to put someone in place that is just as bad as Xavier Becerra, and I think we're still in for a huge fight in the state of California. I think it's going to be par for the course. It's just going to be the same old, because that's kind of how the state of California operates. So go ahead and comment down below, guys, and let me know what you guys think about Biden picking Xavier Becerra to run Health and Human Services for the entire U.S. Also, if you like this video and support the channel, one of the best ways you can do that is like, comment, subscribe, and make sure to hit that notification bell because that helps the channel analytics, helps to spread the news about the Second Amendment, also spread the news about things like this that are going on in the US. So as always, thanks you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and never forget this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.